Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a witchy content creator here on YouTube, so if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check out my channel. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. So I live in the Midwest. Today, my coven, we are actually doing our spring equinox ritual, and it is a very, very cold day here in the Midwest. I'm sorry, by the way, if my camera is kind of like bobbling a little bit. I have you set up on this gooseneck sort of tripod situation. So if it bobbles, I'm sorry. I'm still getting used to using this contraption. But today, my coven, we are celebrating the spring equinox, Ostara, you know, whatever you want to call it, the vernal equinox, when the sun enters the first degree of Aries, which we're celebrating it a little bit early this year, just due to like some scheduling reasons and things like that. But typically this Sabbat can fall between, you know, March 20th, March 21st, March 22nd. It just kind of can depend, because the spring equinox is based off of when the sun enters the first degree of Aries. All of our holidays are charted based on astronomy and astrology and looking at what the stars and the sun are doing. And that's what really marks when the holiday is. Spring equinox for me is always a time of year that I look forward to, in the sense that I'm ready to get out of the slump of winter. But also I have some personal painful anniversaries around this time of year. So it is a little bit challenging in that regard. And I have some videos about that here on my channel where I kind of talk more in detail about some of the specifics of that. And so I'm not going to go into explicit detail in this video. I'll probably link it in the description bar down below. If you're interested in hearing more of my story or specifics around why this time of year sometimes can just be a little bit hard for me on a personal level. On a spiritual level or a witchy level, I also think that the spring equinox often gets looked at as this light, fluffy, I mean, a lot of people, especially here in the States, are thinking of like Easter and pastels and neon colors, little baby bunny rabbits and little chicks. And, you know, it can be that too, but I also think that on a spiritual level, I very much think of, one, the sun entering the first degree of Aries. Aries is really the first of the zodiac. It's a very cardinal, fiery sign, and it's really what starts the entire astrological year. I know that some witches celebrate New Year's at Samhain, and some witches celebrate the Gregorian way, but astrologically, this is really when New Year's starts in the stars, because Aries is the first of the zodiac. Which Aries energy can be very hot and can be very temperamental. It can be incredibly creative. So this is a time of year where you can really pull in some inspiration or look for muses. It's a great time of year to express your creativity and your artistic development, as well as fighting for a cause or looking for profits and charities to sort of donate to. Aries is, you know, known as the child of the zodiac. So I think this time of year, we also have that sense of childlike wonder, because it's the beginning of this new year and we're finally kind of coming out from underneath some of the slump, like I've said, of winter. And, you know, we're leaving some of these mutable signs in the past and shifting into more cardinal zodiac placements. But Aries is also fiery, and Aries is also warlike. Mars, Aries. So we have this sense of conflict and frustration around this time of year as well, this friction. And I think even with the theme of rebirth, I think if you talk to most people who have given birth physically, like, it can be a very scary and painful experience. And I think on a spiritual level, this sense of rebirth, there is that as well. I don't think it's all necessarily pastels. I don't think it's not pastels, but I think it's blood and pastels, in the sense that rebirth can be really painful and really hard and really scary, and starting something completely new sometimes can be a little bit intimidating. And I think that this time of year also has that with it as well. Where I live, It is currently 22 degrees. So I am all bundled up in these layers. I have on my black sweater. I have on this like fleece tank top underneath that you've probably seen me wear in some other videos before. And then I have on these like fun, funky like leggings that have like stars and eyes and planetary stuff, but these leggings are super, super thin. So I actually have like some fleece lined black velvet leggings on underneath, as well as like some fuzzy socks. And I'm gonna be wearing like some, you know, good black boots because we're going out into the woods today. And it's something that I look forward to, especially during the light half of the year with the Coven. Is I love, love, love doing rituals outdoors and in nature. And because of that, we are at the mercy of her and of her seasons. And so sometimes like today, you've just got to bundle up. And during the light half of the year, so during, you know, typically more so sometimes starting at in bulk, but normally starting at Ostara, the spring equinox, and then Beltane, and then summer solstice or Litha. Like typically those sabbats are also when my Coven, we host things in a more open fashion. And when I say open, I don't necessarily mean public. So the difference between that is public rituals are open to the public. Anyone and their mom and them can come to the ritual. You're free to bring +1s. That's kind of what public is. Open means it's not closed, so it's not just for Coven initiated members, but it's typically by invitation only, and that's how we've been kind of running our more community-based rituals. At this time, public rituals are just not really what we're doing. I can't say that we'll never do that, but that's just not what our spirits of our Coven really are calling us to do at this time. I also think that there's a lot of power in keeping the mystery tradition alive. And, you know, I think that by staying open and not public, you're able to kind of consider more of who's there and what sort of energy they're bringing, and also how they're mixing or mingling with members who are already initiated. And you're able to kind of monitor and manage the overall energy of the ritual much better. So it's 22 degrees. So as you can imagine, it's going to be a very frigid and very cold spring equinox for us here today. However, I'm still looking forward to it. And like I mentioned earlier, I love doing rituals outdoors. I think that doing rituals, like I do rituals here in my witchy room, of course, too, right? And I've showed you some of that on the channel before. Like if you want to see some spell work, if you want to see some ritual, there are videos of that. I make some baleful sort of content as well. You can check into that if that's something that you're interested in. If you're not, no biggie. But I started doing some of that because I wasn't seeing a lot of practitioners really sharing some of this. And so that's why if you look through my channel, you're gonna find a lot more like hexes, jinxes, curses, baneful sort of workings, more so than you'll find other workings, because like money spells and love spells and, you know, a lot of that protection work, psychic development, a lot of that can be dime a dozen on YouTube. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was trying to contribute something that we didn't already have on the witchy platform. So if you're interested in like my apple hex or other things, you can find that on my channel. Doing ritual outdoors, I think, is really important. I don't think that every single ritual needs to be done outdoors, but I think if you are only practicing within your temple, or if you are only practicing within your home or someone else's home, I think that, you know, you're kind of missing out, because when you do ritual out in the woods, you are submerging yourself in the landscape and you're connecting to the land in an entirely different way that I think really holds a lot of significance and can really help benefit your practice. You know, you might have some animal visitors or some spirits of the land visiting, if you are open to that in your ritual. You may have some astral guests attend, just like you might have, you know, maybe in your home to a degree, but it'll be different, right? Like doing it in the woods. Time of day too, you know, doing a ritual in the woods at night can feel very different than doing a ritual in the woods during the day. And I know that some people can be a little bit nervous. I mean, we've had some guests sometimes come to our rituals where, you know, while the ritual is open, you know, these are still in public woods. And so other people may or may not be passing by. And if also you look through my channel, I think I have like a summer solstice ritual or something maybe on my channel at one point in time. But it's been kind of funny sometimes, people's reactions, which I will say most of the time, like if you're doing a ritual in a public space, most people don't actually know what you're doing and they tend to just leave you alone, at least where I'm at. And if they don't just leave you alone, they might stare and they might watch, but that's only because they're curious. It's not always because they're being like problematic or anything. And sometimes I think they think that we're LARPing. Sometimes I don't think they think that we are doing ceremonial ritualized magic in the woods. And sometimes I think they probably think of us as like LARPers or Renaissance people, which that's fine too. And I've got nothing against that. And I'm totally down with that vibe. Would be if you are focusing on yourself or your group and the magic that you are doing, and you're focused on the rites and the rituals, then you can kind of almost just put horse blinders on and hyper focus. Now, we tend to meet up in these specific spots in these woods that tend to be more tucked away from passerbys. So we've not so far really had someone like walk straight up to our ritual per se, but we've had people pass by. We did a summer solstice ritual once, like right off of the river. And there was a family that was, what do you call that? Like, there was a family that was rafting down the river and we were on the side of the bank. And so they passed by us and they like cheered us on and were like super cool. So that was a really fun experience and a great memory that I share with my coven. I think there's also something to be said about traditions here. You know, there of course are old traditions that we follow, that we adhere to, like some other witches might. But in our coven, one thing that's really important is really working with this concept of neo-traditionalism. So really building your own sort of tradition. And our coven's tradition is a neo-tradition. I mean, we've definitely, you know, pulled from other occult sources as well. But ultimately, this is our mystery tradition. This is our neo tradition. And that doesn't make the tradition less valid because it's new or because it's ours. And really, if you're not initiated into our tradition, then your opinion on the tradition is kind of irrelevant, in my opinion, and vice versa. Like if you're in a neo tradition group, if I'm not initiated into that, I probably don't know anything about that. And I feel like my opinion on that is kind of null and void. Coven has definitely gotten some flack for that though before, because we don't pretend to be linked to some ancient witch lineage that, you know, stretches way back. Now, we are very much connected to the mighty dead and our witchy ancestry and our ancestors in that sort of sense, but we're not out here pretending that our, you know, coven lineage goes back to the 1700s. I think something that I have noticed as a witch who's in a coven, we've been doing rituals in these woods for the past 4 or 5 years now. And so because of that, I feel like our magic and the woods have kind of connected in a way that I wouldn't have initially imagined when we were first holding and hosting ritual in the woods. My connection with this particular wooded area is significant and has played a really big part in my practice. And especially when like talking with Keldon, if you missed it last night, I did a live stream with the author of The Crooked Path, Keldon, and like spirit flight and hedge travel and working with the other world and the upper worlds and things like that are like primary concepts in traditional witchcraft. And I find it interesting, the parallels that I find in reading that book, because it really does match up with some things that I've been doing in my personal practice without even knowing that this was a traditional witchcraft sort of thing. And when you have your UPG verified like that, it can feel very confirming. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm so squirrely today. We are very caffeinated. I'm currently drinking coffee from my awesome Beetlejuice tumbler that my friend got me. Also, here's the nail cam. We've got purple nails. So yeah, the space, the area of land that we do ritual at has become very special and very sacred to me because we've been working magic in these woods and doing ritual in these woods for quite some time. I share these woods with the Coven and we do things together, but a lot of us also work as solitary practitioners outside of the Coven sort of wheelhouse. We all have our own individualized practices as well, and a lot of us will also work in the woods in our own way as well. And so really connecting with the land. One of those ways that I've shared on the channel before are tree wards. So if that's something that you're interested in learning how to make tree wards or how witches might use tree wards, you can check out, I have 2 videos here on the channel where you can kind of check that out. I am going to hop off of here. I know this is kind of a shorter video. I just wanted to hop on here and say, like, Blessed Ostara, Happy Spring Equinox, like, you know, like, how are you guys feeling? Do you celebrate the spring equinox? Do you celebrate Ostara? How do you celebrate the spring equinox? Do you celebrate with a group? Do you celebrate on your own? I know that I will be doing my own personal spring equinox observation myself, and then today I'm going to be celebrating with the Coven. So really looking forward to that. I'm gonna hop off of here and I'm going to go get to ritual. So until next time, you guys, blessed be.